The Federal Reserve's rates quote of 0.25 percentage points did not impress President Donald Trump, who had demanded a big rate quote. The target for the federal funds rate is now 2.0 to 2.25%, 25 basis points lower. Trump's tweet revealed that disappointment at the U.S. Federal Reserve's chairman, Jerome Powell, saying, as usual, Powell let us down. Mr. Powell said the decision for a lower rate quote is due to weak global growth. Economists and policymakers say a rate quote is necessary to keep the economy from going into recession. That's the tweet by Donald Trump there on the screen, as you can see. Let's look at this critically. I have Chief Executive Officer, Cowrie Assets Limited, Mr. Johnson Chukwu. Mr. Johnson Chukwu, it's great to have you join me on the show to talk about this. Looking at this move by the Federal Reserve Bank, now, were you expecting this rate cut? Let's start that way.
Yes, as an analyst, one was expecting that the U.S. Federal Reserve will have to cut rates, given the fact that global economic growth has slowed down. The tension between the U.S. and China has actually worsened investors' confidence in the global economy. So we've seen a gradual slowdown in global economy. And for the U.S. to maintain its current momentum of growing the economy about 3.1%, which grew in the first quarter of this year, we knew that they needed to bring down rates. They needed to cut rates. Of course, if you look at the manufacturing sector in the U.S., you also observe that the manufacturing sector has actually slowed down. The growth in the manufacturing sector has slowed down. And you consider the fact that the President Donald Trump has actually been agitating that the Federal Reserve should bring down rates so that the economy, the U.S. economy, will not slow down. So beyond that, like I said, we've seen the centrifugal complex conflict between the U.S. and a number of countries on trade, the trade war, and that the impact has been that investors' confidence has actually been eroded and investment is slowing down. And then if you add that to what's happening in England, where there's a lot of uncertainty about the Brexit, what direction the Brexit will take, then it was imperative for the Federal Reserve to bring down interest rates. And even if you look at the vote, you observe that of the 10 members of the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee, 8 voted to bring down rates, only 2 voted to maintain rates.
Let's look at the reaction of stocks now. Asian shares fell 6-week low on Thursday. Now, looking at what I have here, Dow Jones and Nasdaq lost 1.2% each, while S&P declined 1.1%. How does this come to you?
Well, why you are seeing equity markets globally declining is because investors are actually expecting a steeper rate cut. And again, like the Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell said, it's indicating that there will be further rate cuts. So investors do not know exactly where the rate cut will stop. So they are concerned that if you take positions today and rate cuts go down further, that you could actually have further decline in some asset classes. And that's why you saw the capital market go down. Ideally, in the event that interest rates go down, we know investment will go into equities. Rather, because the expectation is that rates will go down further, investors are holding back or even selling down to wait and see how far this cut will go.
Okay, let's look at the statement of the chairman, Jerome Powell, saying the rate cut was not the beginning of any of a lengthy quoting cycle. Also, reaction has been trailing this statement to you.
Yes, that's why I said that investors are expecting that the rate cut could actually be steeper than what it was. But again, the uncertainty created by the trade dispute between the U.S., China, and a number of other countries has not abated, and the impact of that trade dispute has not really hit home run. So people are expecting that you could actually see further slowdown in U.S. manufacturing activities. You could actually see further slowdown in U.S. economy. And should that happen, and given that we're actually entering a political season, then it will behold on the Federal Reserve to ensure that current economic growth is sustained, current level of unemployment, which has dropped to 3.7%, is sustained, and that there's no reversal in the U.S. economic fortune. And the most effective tool that they will use will basically be the interest rate. So investors are optimistic or are hopeful that we will see further risk on unless there's a reversal in the ongoing trade war between the U.S., China, and like I also keep mentioning, several other countries that the U.S. picking up war with.
That's a big one there, Mr. Justin Chukwudie. Thank you very much for, as always, sharing your time and your thoughts with us on the show. Moving on, nations are more conscious of the quality and safety of food and foodstuff. This has huge effects on agricultural production, on environmental sustainability. Consumers are opting for green produce and foods that are produced in an eco-friendly manner. There is need for food safety standards as public awareness of food safety, animal welfare, and environmental sustainability tends to increase with relative rise in the income level. Nigeria has challenges of food security, that is obvious, and also challenges of rejection of some of our food produce. Now, let's look critically at this. I have the Director General, Nigerian Agricultural Quarantine Services, Dr. Vincent Isegbe. He joins us live from Abuja studio. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Isegbe.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
All right, let's go straight to the point. Let's look at how much has been done in terms of quality assurance to ensure safety of agricultural products for local and international markets.
Thank you. Nigeria as a country, we are saddled with ensuring that most of agricultural commodities receive attention. And the attention received comes from the farm level up to the supply chain, to the export certification decks, and eventually at the export decks. As a country, we need to generally become aware of the fact that we need to ensure that quality food is necessary. That we have not done sufficiently as a nation, because the presentation of food in the marketplace is such that it's not yet what we would have loved it to be. Though that is not the duty of the quarantine service, but it's a national issue, that we should agree that even at the marketplace, food should be presented in such a way that it is of good standard, appealing and hygienic. Now at the farm level, the farmer at the farm level too must necessarily agree and must know that whatever he produces, people are going to eat it and eventually it's going to be exported. So what are his responsibilities? To ensure that the right chemicals are used, the right storage processes are maintained. If necessary, he has to engage cold chain, then that has to be looked into. Now the role of government in ensuring this is to make sure that the infrastructure to achieve these standards are put in place. And when those standards are put in place, then the government agency responsible will ensure that it is properly regulated. Now, this is where we may have some challenges, because in the process of the regulation, government itself too has to sanitize, the agencies involved in these regulations. Because I'll tell you sincerely, there are overlapping functions within some government agencies, and that's why you see most times the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria are saying that there's so much duplication. But government has gone ahead, to bring everybody into like a one-stop shop, one clearinghouse, to ensure that every of the regulatory agencies are in the same place to fast-track the export of those commodities and to ensure that those that have the right condition for export are exported. Now, the major challenge we have.
Okay. Go ahead, make your point.
The major challenge we have right now is, yes, some of the exporters or the agents don't want to follow the rules. As I'm talking right now, 16 containers of cashew are on their way back to Nigeria. Why? Because they refuse to take the necessary phytosanitary certificate issued by the quarantine service. They took the export commodities, bypassed quarantine, but they cannot enter that country because there's no certificate authorizing it to leave Nigeria to that country. They are not sure of the safety of that cashew nut, and they are on their way back. That's sad as it is. Economic loss for the country, embarrassment for the country.
Indeed, that is really worrisome. At the time, we also have rejection of our beans and some of our food, agricultural products exported outside the country. Now, let's look at the draft pesticide policy and how it's relevant to agricultural development, particularly at this time where we have the use of pesticides across the country. How effective? How have you been able to check this ugly trend?
Yes. Just before I became the Director General, I realized that there's no national pesticide policy for the country, and it is necessary. It is just the benevolence of international trading partners and the fact that we have what we call Crop Life Nigeria, because they do a lot of chemical pesticides for agriculture worldwide. So it is because of their presence in Nigeria that we are able to access some of those agrochemicals internationally. Now, the essence of the national pesticide policy is to ensure that, one, it is properly regulated, streamlined, and then ensure that whatever comes in is properly used. Hitherto, the pesticide policy for NISRA is restricted to the environment. That in the Federal Ministry of Veterinary and Pest Control is regulated to animals, and then one other agency too. So we need one holistic policy for the country. And the document will be ready in the next 2 or 3 weeks because it has been completed already. We brought in the Federal Ministry of Justice, Federal Ministry of Environment, agencies like NAFDAC, SON, the Quarantine Service, which is the leading agency in this matter, Nigeria Export Promotion Council, all those agencies of government that one way or the other have something to do, to contribute. They are all on the platform. And by the grace of God, when it is ready, it will be applied, and then sanity will return into the country.
We remain very godly in this part of the world. Now, let's look at conflicting statements of government agencies with regards to methyl bromide for agricultural purposes. What is your position on this?
I know you are going to talk about that. And I was trying to avoid it. Now, let me go straight to the point. Yes. The issue has been on the media for some time, and Quarantine has restrained himself from responding any further. The government agency in question, the Montreal Protocol of 1992 has 3 exemptions, which Quarantine drew the attention of that agency to. That the 3 conditions are for use as feeding stuff, or for use under a critical condition by agreement by both contracting parties. And then there's what they call the quarantine pre-shipment, QPS. Those are the 3 conditions under which methyl bromide can be used. And now the agency responsible for ozone layer protection in the country is the National Ozone Office, and is domiciled in the Federal Ministry of Environment. Now Quarantine has written to Environment, and the Ministry of Environment have responded because they are in full control of the content of the national, the Montreal Protocol Agreement. We wrote to the EU, we wrote to NAFDAC. So everybody is aware. The issue that we have to understand as a nation is that what is our national interest? The use of methyl bromide, it is not banned. It can be used on foodstuffs. And when the Quarantine released the statement, we stated clearly other countries that use methyl bromide. Methyl bromide on foodstuff, it's not harmful. When a non-professional uses methyl bromide, that is when it can be harmful because it's not properly handled. But Quarantine, being the National Plant Protection Organization for Nigeria, is a signatory to the Montreal Protocol. And that's why we are safe to use methyl bromide on feeding stuff. It is not harmful. If it is harmful, Mexico will not say that we should use methyl bromide to treat their hibiscus. India will not insist that we should use methyl bromide to treat cashew nuts that we are sending. So those facts need to be clearly put in place.
Okay.
But what we have done as Quarantine is that we have restricted ourselves from responding to the agency, and we have taken up the matter to the highest authority of government so that they can look into the matter and resolve it.
DJ, thanks for that clarity. Now, almost finally, it's no more news that we signed the free trade agreement. How prepared are you and your men, of course, to improve capacity that's on preventing entry of agricultural commodities that, of course, do not meet standards?
Yes, we thank the government for taking the necessary precaution and not going into signing the free trade agreement on time. It's a blessing for Nigeria because it has given every sector of the economy the opportunity to contribute. Now we know that Nigeria is a agro-primary producing country. We need to add value to our agro-commodities to be able to compete favorably with others who may want to bring their commodities in. So the only way Nigeria can gain is that we must be able to produce enough to sell, or else Nigeria will become a dumping ground for every other commodity because we have signed the free trade agreement. That puts the responsibility on every value chain operator, whether government, private, or otherwise, to up their games and make sure that that platform which government has given to us, either as regulatory agencies of government or as a primary producer of goods or services, to live up to the expectation and the responsibility that government has given us. It's a big responsibility. Government has said, look, you are in charge, or yeah, go and perform. So I think that every responsible organization of government or the private sector will now wake up and take advantage of this free trade and be able to put everything in place so that every Nigerian can take advantage of it. There are so many agricultural commodities that can be exported, which we are not exporting now. Cinnamon, to culinary herbs, to honey, to so many other, sweet potato, okra, pawpaw, anything. We can.
Dr. Vincent,
and we don't have winter here, so we can export at any time that we want to do so.
Of course, Dr.
So
Vincent
it's good for us.
Director General, Nigerian Agricultural Quarantine Service. That's all time can take for today. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us on this very important discourse.